It's Wednesday. Week 4 is about to get underway. Before we can turn the page to week 4, however, we must first look back at week number 3 in the National Football League. I have to confess, last week did not go the way that I thought it was going to go. And I'm confused right now. I'm baffled. I'm dazed. I'm confused. I don't know if this is one of those seasons that you can actually really get a handle on. It's still early and you're still trying to figure things out, but usually we have a pretty good handle on who's good and who's not as we head into week 4. I have no idea. This thing is wide open. I talked about it last week. This week confirmed that and kind of hammered that point home even further. We got a lot to discuss on the 292nd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. It starts now. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 292nd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Last week, so week 2, I told you guys I didn't give you my picks. It didn't go well. I think I went 9-7 or something like that in week 2. It was bad, right? It felt way worse than what it ultimately was, but it felt bad. This week was even worse than that. I went 8-8, and you got some crazy finishes and some crazy outcomes. I talked about Jacksonville potentially going to LA and winning, but I'm like, if Justin Herbert plays, they'll be fine. Well, Justin Herbert played and they weren't fine. They got their asses handed to them by the Jacksonville Jaguars, and all of a sudden we're looking around at each other and saying, is Jacksonville for real? I don't know. We're going to find out this week. They're traveling to Philadelphia. We'll get a good sense about how real the Jacksonville Jaguars are. But, man, that's a hell of a shellacking they put on the Chargers. How about the Indianapolis Colts? A lot of people fell victim and prey to the Indianapolis Colts in the survivor pool. There's a lot of people picked the Chiefs thinking that they were going to get them through to week number 4 in the survivor pool, and they were wrong. Matt Ryan with a game-winning drive to give them the win, get their first win of the season. And have you ever seen a record at 1-1-1? I don't know if I've ever seen that. I remember the Steelers had a tie very early in the season, like maybe 2-3 years ago. They may have been 1-1-1, but that's a weird, record to look at. Just 3 ones. So they get on the board, and I'm telling you, the Chiefs aren't the Chiefs anymore. They're not. And I've got a couple of theories as to why, but we'll talk about that when we get to that game in particular. But I've had a sense that the Chiefs weren't the Chiefs for a little while now. But after week 1's performance against the Cardinals, when they put up, 44 and Mahomes had 5 touchdowns and they coasted on those boys on the road, I was like, maybe they're about to start revving the engine back up. Not exactly. There were a couple of other games that were, a bit of a surprise. There were a lot of evenly matched teams like the Bears and the Texans playing each other. So that was a coin flip. The Saints and the Panthers, family business. That was a coin flip. So there were games like that littered all over the Falcons and the Seahawks game, coin flip game, but there are a lot of evenly matched teams playing one another. But when it's all said and done, week number 4 was another one of those weeks that probably bit you in the ass, and it definitely jumped up and bit me. I went 8-8. All right. And I didn't see the 49ers losing to the offensively challenged Denver Broncos 10-11. Are you serious? Is that what we're doing right now? 10-11? What is going on right now? I don't know. Stop asking. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the Gem Droppin Session, shall we? I think we shall. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind. Let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man. Look, T-double-E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. Slime Gang, week number 3. I'm like, bruh, man, I'm over here with the 4 and the 3s and the 5s. Slime Gang, week 3 in the National Football League. Best of the best that I saw in week number 3. And we're going to start with some defenders in week 3. We talk about offensive players so much, and we're going to talk about some offensive players here today as well. But we talk about the offense so often that we don't give the defense any credit. But this has been a defensive season. The under has ruled the day the first 3 weeks in the NFL. And again, it's not easy. I mean, it's not hard to figure that out when you've got totals like 11-10, 14-12, 24-8 are some of these final scores, 23-16, our final scores in games that we're watching. So obviously there's not a ton of points being scored. So that means somebody's doing something, right? Well, some of these defenders out here making some plays. So we're going to start with the Monday night performance of Demarcus Lawrence. That Cowboys defense easily could have been on this slime gang this week because they pressured Daniel Jones 24 times. They hit him, 12 or 15 times. They sacked him 5 times. Would have been 6 had they not had a penalty negate one of the sacks that they had. They abused him, picked him off late to salvage the victory, and only gave up 16 points. But the defense wasn't good enough because they got gouged on the ground by Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones. But Demarcus Lawrence abused rookie Evan Neal, the first round top 5 tackle that they took. Evan Neal might have been top 7 or so out of Alabama. He got baptized in this game, and I had no idea how badly he was struggling to start the season. I'm hearing Troy Aikman talk about his struggles to start the season. I'm like, it can't be that bad, right? And then I watched Demarcus Lawrence go to work on him. Demarcus Lawrence that had been struggling up until that point. Well, he went ham on Evan Neal to the tune of 3 sacks, hurt himself. And if he didn't hurt himself, I'd like to think that he would have gotten maybe a 4th sack later in the game. He did come back in the game later on. I don't know if he was as good, right as he was early in the game with that foot injury, but nonetheless, Demarcus Lawrence kind of set the tone for that Cowboys defense early in that football game, getting to Daniel Jones. And I thought his performance was huge for a Cowboys defense that really didn't have the Micah Parsons show being on full display, because the Giants did a great job, and credit to them for locating where number 11 was at all times, double teaming him. And even when they double teamed him, he ran over the guard on one play and still got to Daniel Jones. It wasn't a sack, but it just shows the versatility, the speed, the power, and all the things that Michael Parsons brings to the table. But what that does is it ensures that everybody else is getting one-on-one matchups. If you've got a dog out there, he should eat. Entering Demarcus Lawrence, 3 sacks. He's part of the slime gang in week number 3. How about a guy that I absolutely loved in the 2022 NFL draft? Wanted my team to draft. Unfortunately, he wasn't around when they came on the board in the 2nd round. In Jalen Petrie, the safety out of Baylor, now a member of the Houston Texans. This kid would have fit that Buffalo nickel role that they always talk about. The only thing that would have worried me had we taken a guy like Jalen Petrie is he's a carbon copy of Cam Curl. I think a better version of Cam Curl, but he's a carbon copy of Cam Curl. Like I said, a better version of him. But you got 2 dudes doing the same thing. It doesn't really fit. But man, is this guy good. And he's been playing ball all season long. Week 1, he was flying around the football field. Week 2, I thought he flashed a couple of times, but week 3 was his coming out party. In a loss to the Bears, 23-20, Jalen Petrie did his part to help the Texans have an opportunity to win that football game. He had 8 tackles in that game, 5 of them solo, had a sack in the game, and not 1, but 2 interceptions on the afternoon for Jalen Petrie. And so with those 2 interceptions, Jalen Petrie has more turnovers forced than the entire Washington Commanders team as a whole. So Jalen Petrie right now playing outstanding ball for a young Texans team that's trying to figure it out. He gave them ample opportunities to try to win that ball game. They still came up short. But I love me some Jalen Petrie, and that's why he's a part of the slime gang in week number 3 with his performance against the Bears. So now we switch gears to the offensive side of the football. Enough of these defensive guys. All right. Enough of that. Let's get to the offensive side. Let's talk some wide receivers. Okay. Mac Hollins is a part of the slime gang in week 3. Yes, the same Mac Hollins that was a special teams ace for the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, the same Mac Hollins that went to Miami and got a slightly bigger role, but was still more of a special teams guy. But we all remember him from that Saturday night game against the Raiders, the one in which Ryan Fitzpatrick helmet gets turned sideways and he launches it down the sideline, and Mac Hollins comes up with it in an improbable come-from-behind victory. They kick a field goal, walk it off, and beat the Raiders on a Saturday night a couple of years ago. Yeah, that same Mac Hollins. Well, now he's in Vegas with the Raiders, and he was outstanding on Sunday. I never thought that these words would come out of my mouth, but Mac Hollins was unstoppable on Sunday. And I never thought I would put those combination of words together in the same sentence. But Mac Hollins, on that final drive that the Raiders had, they were down 24-16 late in that ball game. And the Raiders were awful in this game. They've been awful offensively. They've turned it over. They've done a lot of stupid shit. They did it again in this game. But just like they did in week 1 against the Chargers, they had the football with a chance. And in this game, and last week, they should have won. They blew it. This game had the football late, even though they played garbage ball for 3 quarters. They had the football with a chance late. And Derek Carr throws it to Mac Hollins on a 4th down and like 24. And he catches the like 26-yard pass. Like, what are you doing? It's Mac Hollins. And so I think the first 4th down, he threw it to Mac Hollins. It was like 4th and 7, and he catches it. And he does he too little, right? He's too little. I said, okay, Mac, I see you. He throws it to Mac on like 4th and 24. The game's over. Tennessee can't give up a big play here, right? It's 4th and 24. Mac Hollins down the sidelines, catches the football, 26-yard gain, 1st down. Oh, my God, what is going on right now? They get into another 4th down situation, 4th and goal from about the 7. He throws a fade to Mac Hollins, and he takes the ball away from the defender and just looks at the crowd and goes like this. 8 catches, 158 yards, and a touchdown to cut the deficit to 2 with just seconds remaining in the game. And the Raiders went for 2. They did not convert, and the Titans hold on 24-22, but not because of Mac Hollins. Mac Hollins did everything in his power to lead the Raiders to overtime and give them a chance to win. What the hell is going on when Mac Hollins is out here mossing on dudes? I don't know. But I got to give credit where credit is due. Mac Hollins is out here playing some ball. He's a part of the slime gang in week number 3. How about another receiver, Devante Parker? This is a guy that the Patriots traded for in the offseason from the Dolphins. I was expecting big things because I've come on this podcast at least 2 or 3 different times and said the Patriots don't have a number 1 wide receiver. They got 22 twos. And I've been waiting for Devante Parker to say, hey, man, what is this disrespect that I'm hearing from you? I'm a number 1. I'm right here. A low-level 1, but a 1 nonetheless. Fair. Well, I hadn't seen him. So in my estimation, they didn't have a number 1. Well, he stood up, raised his hand, beat his chest, and said, hey, Louie T, shut your mouth. I'm here, and I'm a number 1 wide receiver. I heard you loud and clear with your 5 catches for 156 yards versus the Baltimore Ravens. For those of you doing math at home, let me save you the trouble. That's 31 yards per catch. And normally when you see a number like that, 5 for 156, there's a 77-yarder in there. There's a 62-yarder in there that really carries that 156-yard total, right? Nah, like there were 5 different 31-yard catches in here. And of course, I'm being facetious. All of them weren't for 31 yards, but it was 26. It was 28. It was 34. It was 42. It was 28. You're like, what is going on? Why is he gashing you like this? Over and over and over and over and over again. One of the catches, he just went up and took the ball from the defender like, man, stop playing with me. Stop playing with me. He did it in like 4 different ways. Went up and mossed on a guy, caught the ball, run after catch, got open in zone, You know, he did it in every way you could possibly do it as a receiver. It was impressive. Mac Jones was putting it on the money, and Devante Parker was making plays. I'm starting to worry about this Ravens defense. We'll talk more about that when we get to their game, but Devante Parker deserves some credit. They lost the football game, but he put up big numbers and gave them an opportunity to fight against the Baltimore Ravens in week number 3. Devante Parker, a part of the slime gang. How about Devante Smith, a.k.a. Slim Reaper, a.k.a. Slim Batman? Boy, was he unguardable in week number 3 versus the Washington Commanders. 8 catches, 169 yards, and a nasty touchdown where he put his nutsack on the helmet of one Kendall Fuller and left him with ball fragments all over his helmet. Devante Smith just was an animal in this game. And I talked about Devante Parker doing it in a multitude of ways. Same can be said for Devante Smith in this game, whether he was climbing the ladder and going up and getting the football, whether he was catching a shallow cross on a mesh concept and then taking off down the sidelines, or he's running a deep post right before halftime, going up and mossing on 2 defenders and coming down with it at about the 2-yard line. He did it all in this football game. And remember, this was a guy that was shut out in the first week of the season against the Detroit Lions on 3 targets, had no catches. And people were wondering, well, damn, what's going on with Devante Smith? I can tell you firsthand, having watched this game, there is nothing wrong with Devante Smith. He is in perfectly good health and form, and he was on full display against the Commanders. And that's part of what makes that Eagles offense so tough to stop. One week it's A.J. Brown. The next week it's Devante Smith. It could be Quez Watkins. It could be Dallas Goedert. Hell, it could be Jalen Hurts, as we saw on that Monday night against the Minnesota Vikings. So this offense is tough to stop, and a part of the reason why Devante Smith, damn, he was good in week 3 versus the Washington Commanders. 8 catches, 169 yards, and a tub for the Slim Reaper, a.k.a. Slim Batman. Lamar Jackson. I talked about Lamar Jackson after the week 2 performance against the Miami Dolphins. And I said that I said after the week 1 win over the Jets, I said he looks a little rusty. After the week 2 performance, I said, okay, he's back. He's back like cooked crack. After the week 3 performance against the New England Patriots, I'm telling you, he looks like he's in MVP form from back in 2019. Okay. He looks to be in that MVP form from 2019. 18 of 29 for 218, 4 touchdown passes and an interception. Okay. 11 rushes, 107 yards, and a touchdown. The second consecutive game he's rushed for over 100 yards. He is now atop the NFL record books with the most 100-yard rushing efforts by a quarterback in an NFL career. He's now got 12 of them, okay? He's got another game in which he's thrown for over 200 and rushed for over 100. I would like to think that he's pretty high on that list as well because, again, he's got 12 100-yard rushing efforts, so that increases the opportunities to rush for over 100 and throw for over 200. This guy right now is just remarkable. Watching him play is so much fun to watch. And he's even throwing the football with a little bit more confidence. It helps when you've got a guy like Mark Andrews to go up and get it for you. But Rashad Bateman gives them something that they really haven't had at the receiver position, which is a dog that makes plays, run after the catch. Devin Duvernay is coming into his own. And so I think this might be the best semblance. Is that a word? I don't know if that's a word. Let's go in a different direction. This may be the best collection of talent Lamar Jackson has had in his career surrounding him at the skill positions. If they finally get the run game on track, and J.K. Dobbins played in this first game, Justice Hill looked good in this game. If they get this run game going, with Lamar not being the focal point of it, look out for the Ravens. They scored 38 last week. They score 31 in this game against the Patriots. They're starting to light up the scoreboard. Jackson's starting to, run around the field and have fun. Slime gang for Lamar Jackson. I have a feeling this isn't the last time he'll be a part of the slime gang this season. Gang. But the slimiest of the slimy in week number 3. That distinction goes to the Philadelphia Eagles defense, okay? You don't get much slimier than this group right here. And what they did in week number 3, they surrendered a paltry 6 points, 8 total in the game, but they didn't have anything to do with 2 of the points, which was a safety given up by the offense. They give up 6 points on the scoreboard, forced 2 fumbles, recovered 1, which led to points on the scoreboard, registered 17 quarterback hits, 9 of which were converted into sacks. 9 sacks for the Philadelphia Eagles defense en route to a 24-8 victory. They were absolutely dominant with a capital D. And I still don't think the Eagles defense is as good as, say, Tampa Bay or Dallas's defense. To me, those are the 2 best defenses in football. Those teams fly around. They're so much fun to watch. I think Green Bay is in that discussion as well. That defense flies around to the football. That's not what the Eagles do. They don't fly around on defense. But what they did on Sunday was criminal in at least 17 states with just 4-man rushing after the quarterback. That's criminal. How they abused the Washington Commanders' offensive line, got to Carson Wentz, sacked him, harassed him, and when they were done, he was shell-shocked, was Carson Wentz. He didn't know if he was coming, if he was going. He just knew he had to get rid of the football as soon as the ball hit his hand. It was like hot potato. Eagles defensively, they're getting better under Jonathan Gannon. I still don't believe. I'm not a believer quite yet. This game against Jacksonville will go a long way in trying to convince me, because the Jaguars, to me, are a much better unit. They protect up front better. They run the football very effectively, as the Chargers just found out. And Doug Peterson is an offensive guru, as we know. And the Eagles know that all too well. And so I want to see what this defense does against a team that's not going to self-destruct and have their offensive line crumble. But you know why the offensive line crumbled for the Washington Commanders? The Eagles' defensive front crumbled their ass under that pressure. Okay, so credit must be given when it is due. Eagles, slimiest of the slimy in week number 3 in the National Football League, and that concludes the slime game in week number 3 as we transition to Slate Skatin. Put your skates on. I got my rollerblades on. Let's go around the league, man. Let's have some fun. All right. And so we start with the game I just mentioned with the Commanders and the Eagles. Eagles dominate this football game 24-8. It's the 3rd straight game the Eagles have scored 24 points in the first half. So this Eagles offense getting off to red hot starts. But for the 2nd consecutive week, the Eagles don't score a single point in the second half. That's something to note, because, again, 24 points isn't going to get it done every single week. So they're going to have to continue to score. But the ability to score 24 points in a half lets you know that this offense is dynamic, it's diverse, it's explosive, and they're hard to contain when Jalen Hurts is throwing the football accurately, which is what he did for the most part in the game against Washington. He was outstanding. He continues to build an MVP case. It's early. I remember doing this with Russell Wilson a couple of years ago, where he got off to a sweltering start. He had like 18 touchdown passes in the first 4 games or so, and he fizzled out down the stretch and wasn't even in the discussion when it was all said and done. I think we'll ultimately get there with Jalen Hurts, but right now he's playing at a very high level. Hurts in this game, 22 of 35 for 340, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was fantastic in this game. I talked about Devante Smith and what he was able to do. A.J. Brown got his first touchdown as a member of the Philadelphia Eagles in this game. 5 catches, 85 yards for him. And so they had it on tilt offensively in the second quarter. They didn't score a single point in the first quarter. Scored 24 points in the second quarter, and they cruised to a 24-8 victory. I've already told you what the defense did to the Washington Commanders offense already, and how they neutralized that offense by getting to Carson Wentz, sacking him 9 times, disrupting that offense, and getting them off the field, forcing a turnover, and just dominating that game 6 ways to Sunday. Commanders are now 1-2 on the season. Eagles are 3-0 after the victory. They are one of 2 teams left in the NFL. That tells you how the parity is this season, that there are only 2 teams undefeated after 3 weeks of football. That's unheard of. Unheard of. Texans at the Bears. This actually turned out to be a solid football game. The Texans, unfortunately, come out on the short end of the stick here. 23-20. The Bears get the job done. And the Texans are now 0-2-1, 0-2-1. I hate when people say, oh, that's a letter, not a number. They're 0-2-1 on the season. Meanwhile, the Bears are now 2-1. And I look at this Bears team and I'm like, how in the hell are you 2-1? But they got it done against the 49ers in a slop fest, and now they beat the Houston Texans. And look, this game was 20-20, man. Texans had the football, and you just get an absolutely back-breaking, I'm talking a soul-crushing turnover by quarterback Davis Mills. And this is the shit that I talk about with Davis Mills. Like, he's not terrible, right? He's not terrible, but there's something missing with his game, and there's always one of these soul-crushing turnovers. He had one in week 1 against the Colts. They're dominating the Colts. They're up 20-3, and the Colts are on the comeback trail, and he has a soul-crushing fumble that leads to the touchdown that ties the game, and ultimately game ends in a tie. This week, it's 2020. The worst-case scenario, this possession needs to end in a kick. Whether it's a punt, a field goal, an extra point, it can't end in a Davis Mills interception. And it was a brutal interception. Put the Bears right in field goal position. They didn't have to do anything. They didn't make Justin Fields make plays down the stretch. They essentially put them right where they needed to be to win the football game. But I got to give credit to the Bears rushing attack. You throw Fields in there as well. Khalil Herbert is turning into a really good backup running back in this league, one of the better backup running backs. They've got a nice little 2-headed monster going with Herbert and Montgomery. And then when you throw Fields and his ability to run the football into that mix, they're becoming a nice little rush offense in Chicago. Khalil Herbert, 20 carries, 157 yards, and 2 touchdowns for the Chicago Bears in this game. He just missed out on being a member of the Slime Gang, but this guy, I'm telling you right now, this Khalil Herbert, if David Montgomery continues to be banged up and this guy gets more opportunities, it'll get to a point where he'll take his job. And I love David Montgomery, and I think he's a tremendous runner. But those two healthy, man, look out. The Bears could be a very formidable team offensively by minimizing what this is the 3rd game in a row that Justin Fields hasn't had more than 17 attempts passing the football. He's not throwing it. They're not relying on him to throw it. If he can, and he threw 2 interceptions in this game. Okay, I talked about Jalen Petrie having the 2 picks. They came off of Justin Fields. Like, Fields is still struggling as a passer. They didn't give him any weapons, so this is not something that is news to us. But they're minimizing his impact on the game by running the football effectively. And if they can continue to do that with the defense, Matt Eberflus, we know he can coach defense. With Matt Eberflus as their head coach, they're going to play defense. And they're going to have a chance. And if they can run the football, this Bears team will be around when we get to the end of the season and we start looking at, division leaders, wild card, and in the hunt. The Bears will be in the hunt. They're now 2-1 after the 23-20 victory over the Texans. Titans hosting the Raiders. Both teams came in this game at 0-2. Somebody's O had to go. Somebody was going to come out of this thing victorious and get their first win of the season. And it was the Tennessee Titans. They get it done 24-22. I thought early in the game, they did a really good job of establishing Derrick Henry. The Raiders eventually grinded him to a screeching halt in this game. And that's when the Titans offense really started coming crashing down to earth. But early in this game, they were having their way on the ground. Tannehill was able to go play action fake off of that, have some success throwing the football. And they were moving the football, and they were up in this game 14-3. They were up in this game 21-3. It looked like they were going to run away, 21-10. They looked like they were going to run away and hide. They were up 24-10 at one point in this game. But I told you, they took Derrick Henry away as the game progressed. The Raiders chipped away, and the Raiders did so many stupid things in this game. I swear to you, this Raiders team, man, they turn it over. Derek Carr has been awful this season. They had one turnover in this game, but this is where the Raiders lost the game. And I'm watching this game live because Sunday Ticket finally worked. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. So I had my 4 games on my computer screen. My 2 TVs had 2 different games on, and I was able to watch, 6 games at once. And this was one of the games that I was watching. And they couldn't convert a third down to save their lives. 1 of 12 on third down were the Raiders in this game. Now, they made up for it by being 3 of 3 on fourth down. I talked about the 3 fourth down catches by wide receiver Mac Hollins. But all in all, you go 1 of 12 in the third down department, and you go 2 of 6 in the red zone, which is what the Raiders did in this game. You deserve to lose the football game. I mean, how do you go 2 and 6 anyway in the red zone? That's really hard to do. I mean, you've got to be really inept to go 2 of 6 in the red zone, but that's how you lose football games. Meanwhile, the Titans went 3 of 3 in the red zone. That's the difference in the game. They didn't settle for field goals. They scored touchdowns when they got down there. The Raiders settled for field goals or went for it on fourth down and ultimately didn't get it, whatever the case may be. Or they went for it on fourth down 3 times and they did score the touchdown. So they had to settle for field goals every time. And then I think one of the turnovers was one of the failed red zone trips was the interception that Carr threw in the end zone to Byard, the safety, the all-pro safety for the Tennessee Titans. And so just too many mistakes. Every week we're having the same conversations about the Raiders, And you would think third down efficiency with Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow would be at an all-time high. You sprinkle in a little bit of Waller, Darren Waller. How can you stop them on third downs? I don't know what the hell they're doing right now on third downs, but they were awful again, and they didn't make enough plays. I talked about how the end of that game went. Titans were holding on for dear life after taking that 24-10 lead. Raiders come down the field, get the touchdown to Mac Hollins after converting not 1, not 2, but 3 fourth downs to Mac Hollins. But ultimately, the Titans keep them out of the end zone on the 2-point conversion and preserve the 24-22 victory. Titans get their first win of the season. And now they got Indy. And then after that, they got the Commanders. And then they have a bye week. All of a sudden, started 0-2. They could easily be 3-2 heading into their bye week. A lot of people left the Titans for dead after the first 2 weeks of the season. I still think the Titans are going to struggle this season. But I like what I saw from Derrick Henry. If they can get him going, they're going to have a chance to right the ship. That defense is really solid. We'll see what they do moving forward. They get their first win. Raiders are now 0-3. I told y'all about Josh McDaniels. I do not like this guy as a head coach. This is just karma for what he did to the Indianapolis Colts, backing out on them, how he destroyed the Denver Broncos organization before leaving and going back to New England. This is karma. This is karma for his stinking ass. So Raiders are now 0-3. Colts hosting the Chiefs. One of the probably the most surprising outcome of week 3 was the Indianapolis Colts getting their first win of the season. They're now 1-1-1. I talked about that at the top of the show with that weird looking record. Chiefs are now 2-1, get their first loss of the season. I think it's less about the Colts winning this game. I think it's more about the Chiefs only scoring 17 points. And while the Indianapolis Colts defense, they're good. They didn't have Shaquille Leonard in this ball game. And I'm shocked. I'm flabbergasted at how they only were able to muster 17 points. But as I watched the game, I started to see things that are problematic for this Chiefs offense. The first thing is they don't run the football very effectively. They do not have a run game that they can rely on to take pressure off of their passing game. Patrick Mahomes can't be your leading rusher, okay? 4 rushes for 26 yards for Mahomes, 7 for 20 for Jerick McKinnon. Isaiah Pacheco had 3 carries for 9 yards. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 7 carries, 0 yards for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They ran it 23 times for 58 yards in this football game, a 2.5 yards per carry average. That is as funky as it gets, okay? So they can't run the football right now, and they haven't had a lot of success running the football this season. I think they might have had some modest success against the Arizona Cardinals in week 1, but they didn't run it well against the Chargers last week. Actually, they had the big run. Edwards-Helaire had the big run late to salt that game away. But other than that big run, they really weren't having a ton of success against the Chargers. And then in this game, they absolutely could not run the football. And then another thing that I noticed is that the timing just isn't there with the receivers and all of the new weapons that they've brought in. Sky Moore had a devastating muffed punt early in this game. I thought the Chiefs were in control of this ball game. He muffs a punt, and then the Colts turned that into a touchdown. How about Jelani Woods, the rookie tight end out of UVA, blew up the combine, went from a guy that was an afterthought, probably a fifth-round pick, ends up getting taken, I think, in the second, if not the second, definitely the third out of UVA. And he replaces what they lost last year in one of their tight ends that retired. I'm trying to think. I think it was Jack Doyle that hung it up. So they got Mo Alley Cox, and now they got Jelani Woods. He catches the first touchdown of the game and catches the final touchdown, the game-winning touchdown as well. But Sky Moore muffed a punt back there. That hurts you. And then they're trying to get Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Remember, when they went out and got MVS, it was to replace Tyreek Hill's speed, to give them that guy that could take the top off the defense and still scare opposing defenses. And he just they haven't had one hookup yet, and they're not in sync. He got behind the Colts defense, and Patrick Mahomes got excited and thought he was throwing it to Tyreek Hill, and he launched it. And Valdez-Scantling couldn't run under it. And he has to remember, that's not Tyreek Hill. It's not the cheetah. Okay. There's not an extra gear that he can kick into and go run under the thing and go get it. You gotta put that thing on the money like Aaron Rodgers did for MVS. So there's just this slight miss with this offense here and there, and it's stopping them from converting on third downs. They look uncomfortable. Mahomes looks flustered at times. And we know the Colts are one of those teams. They're going to play back two safeties. They're not going to blitz a ton. They're going to make you check it down and be disciplined. And that seems to be Patrick Mahomes' kryptonite right now, is he wants the big shot, and he got an opportunity. And when you get him, you can't miss in this league. And he missed it to MVS. They're just not in sync right now. They're just not in sync. And they're making mistakes, which is something that we are not accustomed to seeing the Chiefs do. But they're making mistakes too. Got to credit the Colts for hanging around in this game, hanging around. It was 17-14 for the longest. All right. They were hanging in this game. And they just waited for an opportunity, waited. And finally that opportunity arose, or 17-13, excuse me. It was 17-13 for the longest time in this game. And they waited for that opportunity, and it came at the end of the game. And shout out to Matt Ryan. People were slandering his name after the first two games of the season. I talked about how the Colts started slow last year with Carson Wentz, and they still haven't really gotten the run game off. Jonathan Taylor does not have a 100-yard effort this season. They're not really running the football. He had no weapons last week. Everybody was hurt. And I said, let's just see what happens moving forward. Give him a chance. They finally played a home game after 2 road games to start the season off, and he goes home to Indianapolis, and he leads them on a game-winning drive and wins them the football game 20-17. And that's a big one. We'll see if that jumpstarts the Indianapolis Colts this season or not. But the defense came to play. They're going to get Shaquille Leonard back here shortly. And Jonathan Taylor, I heard that he's on the injury report now with a toe injury. That's significant. But nonetheless, big win for the Indianapolis Colts in this football game. And I think it's an indictment on the Chiefs right now. They're not the same team. That division is wide open. As bad as Denver has been, they're tied for first place in the AFC West. So we move on to the next game. Bills at Dolphins, AFC East family business. You know how the family do it. Man, was this some good football or what? And I heard that it was 120 degrees on the field. Right? That's what it felt like. Okay. It's Miami. It's still pseudo summer, and it was a scorcher. All right. That didn't stop the Bills from putting up damn near 500 yards of total offense. However, the Bills made a lot of mistakes in this game, man. And it's not always how many mistakes you make. It's when you make those mistakes that really come back to haunt you a lot of times in football games. Like, for instance, the Texans. If Davis Mills turns that football over, he throws a pick, and let's say the Bears pick it off at their own 27, I don't trust Justin Fields to take the Bears in the field goal range and win the football game. as time expires. But you turn it over at your own, 27-yard line, your own 30. Yeah, game's over already. They just got to not turn it back over, and their field goal kicker is going to jaunt onto the field and win it for them. Sometimes I talked about the Raiders. They got all the way down the field, and then Derek Carr throws an interception in the end zone to Kevin Byard. It's not always how many turnovers you have. That was their only turnover of the game. Sometimes it's when you do it. All right. The Bills got down the field. They were boat racing the Dolphins defense, right? But Josh Allen turns it over inside his own 10-yard line. They scoop that thing up and end up getting in the end zone, right? Like, these are the turnovers that kill you, that break your back. If you're going to turn it over, do it somewhere just slightly past midfield or into, but you don't want to be too close to the end zone. Now you're taking points off the scoreboard. You don't want to be too close to your own end zone because now you're giving up points. And then they get down there and they're 2 of 4 in the red zone, one of which they go for it on a fourth down. Josh Allen has a wide open receiver. He doesn't set his feet. He gets excited and he skips it to him. He one-hops it to the receiver. The Dolphins were 3 of 3 in the red zone. The Bills were 2 of 4. That's how you win the football game for the Miami Dolphins. That's how you lose the game for the Buffalo Bills. Let me give you some of these numbers so that your mind can be totally blown. All right. These are the Bills numbers. All right. I'll give you both teams' numbers just because if you hear these numbers, you're thinking, oh man, the Bills put up 48 points in this game. 21 passing. First of all, 31 to 15 first downs in the game. Bills had 31 first downs. Dolphins had 15. All right. Third down efficiency for the Bills, 11 of 18. What? You're talking about damn near 70% on third downs. Meanwhile, the Dolphins were 3 of 8. Okay. And the Bills were 2 of 3. So when they didn't convert on third down, they went for it 3 times on fourth down and they converted 2 out of 3. Now, the one that they didn't convert was in the red zone and they turned it over on downs, right? However, 90 total plays in the game for the Buffalo Bills, 39 for the Miami Dolphins. Let me say that again. 90 total plays for the Buffalo Bills to 39 for the Miami Dolphins. Now, let me say something to you. I just told you that on the field, it felt like 120 degrees. How many defenses in the league do you know that play 90 snaps only gives up 19 points, really 17 points because we had the butt punt in this game? I'll take your answers off air. All right. Hell of a Herculean effort by this Dolphins defense to bend but never break in this game. 497 total yards of offense for the Bills to the 212 for the Miami Dolphins. Now, you say, okay, well, the Bills must have had the football, 18 times. Nope, they had it 9 times. The Dolphins had it 8. Time of possession. The Bills had the ball 40 minutes and 40 seconds. The Dolphins had it for 19 minutes and 20 seconds. But the biggest difference was when the Dolphins had the football, they took advantage of it. Again, the Bills gave it to them on a damn platter the first time they scored a touchdown when Josh Allen fumbled. They were 7 yards away from the end zone, and they converted that to a touchdown. And so when they did have it, they scored touchdowns. When Buffalo got it and they moved it down the field, they had something happen. Either had to settle for a field goal, went for it on fourth down, didn't get it. And that's how you lose football games. 2 of 4 from Buffalo in the red zone, 3 of 3 from Miami, including 2 touchdowns for River Craycraft. Good for him. He bounced around the league as an undrafted wide receiver, and now he's getting an opportunity in Miami, and he's taking full advantage of it. How the Dolphins – I'm going to tell you something. That butt punt saved the Dolphins in this game. A lot of people make fun of the Dolphins for it, and it'll go down in infamy. I saw something funny from Dirty Chez, who said, hey, stay out of my lane. He said that to the punter who kicked it off of the guy's butt because, that he's infamous for the butt fumble. And now somebody's kicking a punt off of a butt, and now they're going to be in that category. He's like, hey, stay out of my lane, all right? Anyway, if they don't have that gaff, they're up 21 to 17 at that point of the game, and it's like a minute and 10 left. And If they punt that ball, the Bills are going to get the football somewhere around midfield, maybe even in Dolphins territory. They're going to score a touch. Josh Allen's going to take them downfield. They're going to score a touchdown and win the football game. Okay. So that butt punt was the best thing that could have happened to them because it allowed them to kick the football off deep. It made the Bills have to go even further to get in the field goal range, and the Bills didn't have any timeouts. And you saw what ended up happening. So to me, I know they didn't mean to do it, but I think that ultimately saved them. And now another controversy that stemmed from this game was the concussion or the back injury that Tua Tagovailoa sustained. Anybody that saw him get up after the hit that he got from Matt Milano, which was flagged for, personal foul, late hit. Nobody thinks that Tua hurt his back on some Mike Tyson shit. I broke my back on some Ezel shit. My neck, my back, my neck and my back. Oh, I'm a sue. Oh, we can settle this. Anyway, that man got up, stumbled, was jelly-legged. He looked like a boxer that just took a couple of devastating hooks and went down. And equilibrium was just off. His teammates come over and pick him up, hold on to him like, hey, bro, you all right? He's like, yeah, I'm good. He takes another step, and he looks like he's about to collapse. Somehow, this man managed to come back into the game. Now, they said it was a back and a neck. Okay, fine. Whatever you say. That man was concussed. You're not telling me anything, but there's no way to prove it. So, anyway, I digress. What a win for the Miami Dolphins. They're now 3-0, and all of a sudden, shit got real interesting in the AFC East because if the Bills beat, and they dominated the Dolphins in this game. I gave you the stats, but if they win this game, that's Buffalo. You're thinking, okay, Buffalo's going to run away with this division at some point. Dolphins are going to look. The Dolphins should have lost last week to the Baltimore Ravens. They were down 35 to 7 at one point. I think 28 to 7, 35 to 14 going into the fourth quarter. They should have lost that game, but they didn't. They easily could have and should have lost this game. So they're teetering on the brink, but they're 3-0. But how long can you keep that up for is the question. But even if they are to stumble, a little bit, falter a little, this win gives them an opportunity to stumble a bit, but still be in the mix with the Bills. And the Bills are going to have their struggles because they're going to turn it over every now and again. They're going to have games like this where they don't punch it in, things of that nature. And so big win for the Dolphins. I still think the Bills are the best team in the NFL, just so you know. Vikings and the Lions. NFC North family business. These two teams said they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, well, that's NFC North family business. And boy, this was some tasty family business, if I may say so myself. Vikings, Lions, and Bears, oh my. 28-24, the Vikings get the victory over the Detroit Lions. This is one of those games, if you're a Lions fan, where you go, damn it, we just don't know how to win. We just don't know how to win. And this is a part of the process. They're in year 2 of Dan Campbell. They're still trying to figure out how to close out games. They were up 14-0 in this game. They were dominating the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, absolutely destroying them early in this game to the point where I thought they were going to run away and hide in this football game. They missed a field goal on the opening possession after an impressive opening drive. Their kicker, Austin Seibert, misses a 48-yard field goal, okay? But then they bounce back, they get a stop, and they go down. The Vikings, as a matter of fact, missed a field goal themselves. As a matter of fact, now that I recollect, they missed a field goal too. And so after that, the Lions, touchdown. It's 14-0. They're dominating, and the Vikings just hung around. They just hung around. Now it's 14-7. Then it got to 24-14, and I'm thinking, all right, the Lions have control of this game again. They're going to win this football game. And I'm thinking, I started to beat myself up like Ike because I wanted to pick Detroit. I told you guys this on Friday. I said, I want to pick Detroit, but I don't think they're ready yet. They're still in the oven. They're still cooking a little bit. They're still baking. I don't think they're ready yet. But, man, I wanted to pick them. I said, I don't think they're ready. And they showed why they're not ready. They went for it 6 times on 4th down, which shows me Dan Campbell's out here like, man, scared money don't make money. I ain't scared. I ain't never scared. All right, man's out here rolling the dice, and they coming up nice. They were 4 of 6 on 4th down, but they had a critical 4th down stop where they got stopped on 4th down that allowed the Vikings to hang in. But nothing hurt worse than the final drive of the game, essentially. Not the interception that Jared Goff threw at the end. That was in garbage time. The final possession, the Lions had the football. They were moving it. They were burning clock. They had the Vikings by the balls. They had them by the balls. And they send Austin Seibert out for another field goal. Now, this one's from like 54 yards. It's not a chippy. Not like the 48-yarder he missed earlier, okay, which I need you to make. That's the money distance. Anything from 40 to 49, I tell you guys all the time, that's the money distance. That's where you make your money in this league as a field goal kicker. Now, if you want to become elite, when I send you out there for 54, 55, 58, that shows you that you're in another, you're in another group, right? There's the really solid kickers, and then there's the elite kickers, and those are the guys that are banging it home consistently from 55 and 56, and they're making it a 90, 89, 90, 92% clip on a year-in, year-out basis. There are not many of those in the league. But Austin Seibert comes on the field, and you're inside, controlled environment, 54 yards. You already missed from 48. This will put the game away. You make this field goal, and it's 27-21. There's seconds left, 40-something seconds left. And there's no way the Vikings are driving the length of the field. It's over, right? Let's see how many seconds were left in the game when he missed that field goal. There was a minute and 14 left. If he makes that kick, I got all the confidence in the world that they're going to win the game 27-21. I just don't see the Vikings, who had struggled all day long with explosives. Everything that they did was, nickel and dime. They ran the football effectively. It wasn't a lot of explosive plays. They had to matriculate the ball down the field. Well, that missed field goal, and again, this is Dan Campbell rolling the dice saying, hey, I believe in y'all. I'm going to go win the game. I'm not playing to hold on for dear life. I'm playing to win the game. So he sends his kicker out there, and he misses, right? Well, that gives up tremendous field position. Now, all the Vikings need is a field goal to tie the game up. Remember, it's 24-21. Well, at this point, the Vikings are like, after field goal, let's go for the jugular. Let's go for the win. And he finds KJ Osborne for the touchdown. And I tell you what, man, first of all, great route by Osborne to get open. Great throw by Kirk on the corner route. And that's a soul crusher if you're the Lions. That's another one of those games. That's the second year in a row they went to Minnesota and found a way to steal defeat from the jaws of victory. They had no business losing this game. The Lions were the better team, if you ask me, in this game, but they made too many mistakes. You missed 2 field goals. You go for it on 4th down twice. You don't convert. That's going to get you every single time. Again, I go to the red zone stats. I think the Lions actually were 3 of 3 in the red zone. Both teams were 3 of 3 in the red zone. Both teams got it done in the red zone. The problem for the Lions, like I said, they missed 2 field goals. You make those field goals, you win this football game. They didn't. They lose 28-24. The Vikings are 2-1 on the season. The Lions are now 1-2. That was a fun game, though. That was a fun game to watch. Patriots at Ravens, 37-26. I think I said 31 points earlier when I was talking about Lamar Jackson. So that's back-to-back weeks of 35 plus for the Ravens. 38 last week in the loss to the Dolphins. 37 this week in a win over the Patriots. They're scoring points, man. And Lamar Jackson has it on tilt. Over 100 yards rushing last week, over 100 yards rushing this week. Accounted for 5 touchdowns last week, accounted for 5 touchdowns this week. This guy right now, man, I'm just telling you, he's a hell of a lot of fun to watch. But 37-26, let's talk about this game. So this was the most competent I've seen the Patriots offense look in this young season. I made a lot about the offense and who was calling the plays and how bad it was going to be this year. They actually looked like a real NFL offense this week. I didn't feel that way the first 2 weeks of the season. They actually looked like a credible NFL offense. I talked about what Devante Parker did in this game. Mac Jones actually looked good. The only problem was he threw 3 picks. So it's hard to look good and throw 3 picks at the same time. But if there's a such thing, he did it in this game, but you can't turn it over. And so the Ravens right now, I worry about this team. They're 2-1. They should be 3-0. But I worry about this team because I know the offense is good. There's no question about that. If they stay healthy offensively, they're going to be a problem. Their defense, though, reminds me of the defense they had last year. It's feast or famine. So obviously they gave up big plays last week. Obviously they gave up 42 points. Tua had 6 touchdown passes. This week they gave up 26, but the only reason they didn't give up 30 plus is because they picked Mac Jones off 3 times, and this game was still in the balance at 31-26. And Mac Jones throws a strike to Nelson Aguilar, and the rookie safety out of Notre Dame, Kyle Hamilton, who was the scapegoat last week against the Dolphins, who gave up the big plays, chases down Nelson Aguilar from behind and punches the football out, and Marcus Peters recovers it. And that stopped the bleeding. They were going for points on that possession. And so this Ravens defense, they give up a ton of explosive plays. They're not disciplined. They're not getting a ton of pressure on the quarterback. I worry about them. I really, truly do. After watching what the Dolphins did last week, watching what the Patriots did this week, the Patriots couldn't bust a great offensively, and they looked like a real NFL offense in this game. I worry about the Ravens defensively, but I am not concerned at all about their offense. They get it done in this game, 37-26, but I'm not sold yet. Lamar Jackson's putting on a clinic right now. He's putting on a show, but that defense, man, it ain't good. That's for sure. It ain't good. They got rid of their defensive coordinator. He's now in New York with the Giants, and they tried to put a lot of the blame on him. He was too aggressive. All right, cool. Now you got a different guy, and you're still getting your ass torched. The Patriots had 447 yards of offense in this game. All right. Now they were only 2 of 9 on third downs, but they had their way with the Ravens, and they made it to the red zone 5 times. Did the Patriots, but they were 3 of 5. Meanwhile, the Ravens were 5 of 5 in the red zone. There you go. That's why you got the outcome that you got. But the 4 turnovers killed the Patriots, and that's what the Ravens are living off of right now. They forced turnovers last week. They picked Tua off twice last week. They got 4 turnovers this week. They turned over the Jets in week 1. They're living off of turnovers, but at some point, you got to get stops, and you got to be a much more disciplined and sound defense. I don't see it with them right now. I worry about them, but hey, if you're going to keep scoring 37 and 38 on a weekly basis, you're going to win more games than you're going to lose. That is for certain. Bengals and Jets. This game was extremely boring because I never questioned whether Cincinnati was going to get off the schneid in this game. It was just a matter of how, and they had every opportunity in this game to blow the Jets out, but they're not there yet. They're still not right, are the Bengals, okay? They still got some issues, and I actually thought the Jets moved the football in this game. They just self-destructed. The Jets are the Jets, man. Nobody does the Jets thing quite like the Jets. 4 turnovers in this game. Joe Flacco was throwing the football all over the place. They were fumbling the football. The Jets are just a mess. And that just... they're not watchable until Zach Wilson comes back. And even that doesn't mean they're going to fix anything. I think he's going to turn the ball over too, but at least that's a reason to watch. Burrow was solid in this game, 3 touchdown passes. This is the first game that he didn't turn it over. He had been a turnover machine the first 2 weeks, had Joe Burrow. Did he turn it over last week against Dallas? I think he turned it over against Dallas last week. Let me make sure. I don't want to. No, he didn't turn it over last week against Dallas. He did fumble last week, but they didn't lose that fumble last week against Dallas. In any event, he threw 3 touchdown passes. They got to get this running game on track. They haven't been able to really run it effectively this season. This was another bad performance on the ground, but Burrow was able to throw it around the yard a little bit. And then the Jets, again, they self-destructed. They had opportunities in this game, man. The Jets were moving the football a little bit, but every time you look up, it was a fumble. It was an interception being thrown. And so the Bengals, they jumped out to a little lead in this game, and they pretty much just hung on in this game. 27-12 was the final. They got out to a 27-9 lead. It was 20-6 at one point. Again, you could see where this thing was heading. You could see early on, okay, the Jets they're going to do the Jet thing today. And Bengals get off the schneid. They got a quick turnaround. They're taking on the undefeated Miami Dolphins at home on Thursday Night Football, which should be a fun one. The Jets, they're 1-2. They could be 0-3. They should be 0-3, but they're 1-2. But they still look like the Jets. Saints and Panthers, NFC South family business. You know how the family do it. This was another stinker of a football game. However, the Panthers get it done. They exercised some demons. They had lost 9 straight games dating back to last season, 6 in a row or 7 in a row last season to finish out, and then 2 to start this season. So they snap a 9-game skid by winning this football game. And I was shocked that they jumped on the Saints the way that they did. This thing was 13-0 in this ball game at half. And I was just like, what are you doing, New Orleans? And I know sometimes when New Orleans goes to Carolina, this is what happens. They've always struggled. Even when they had Drew Brees, they always struggled in Carolina. But I was just thinking that this Carolina offense stinks and that they're going to be able to do some things. But the defense for the Panthers stepped up. And you can say what you want about their offense. And Christian McCaffrey looks like he's hurt again. And he didn't practice today. And we know the story there. That's not anything new. And their offense struggles when he's not in the lineup. But their defense is actually good in Carolina. They're young, they're fast, they're hungry, they're ferocious, they fly around, and they scooped up a fumble in this game early on, ran that back for a touchdown. That popped the seal on the scoring in this game. And from there, they just kind of just did the little things, kicked the field goal here, kicked the field goal there. And what they did was they kept that running game of the Saints in check, and they said, Jameis, I dare you to beat me. And he couldn't do it. He had an interception, 2 interceptions in this game. One was at the very end of the game. That one doesn't count. But the first one, was one of those Jameis Winston interceptions that you see all the time, him trying to make a play, forcing something where it doesn't belong. And so at the end of the day, Carolina gets their first win of the season. I don't know how many more of these they're going to get. I don't believe in Matt Rule and what he's doing in Carolina right now, but I do know that they're now 1-2. Just like everybody else in the division, not named Tampa Bay. So that division, we said before the season, it's going to stink. The Saints are the only hope to make that division competitive with Tampa Bay. And I don't see that right now with the Saints. That offense is absolutely dreadful. They couldn't score last week against Tampa. Again, that Tampa Bay defense is really good. They couldn't score this week against Carolina. Again, this Carolina defense, it's not Tampa's defense, but it's not terrible. And they won in week 1. I even forget who they beat in week 1, but I don't think it was fireworks in that game either. Whomever they beat. Let me find out. 27-26, and they were down 26-10 in that game against the Falcons and rallied in the fourth quarter. So they're struggling offensively. Jameis isn't right. He's already banged up. I heard that he didn't practice today over in London. They've got a London game this Sunday, but I've also heard that he's fine and he's going to play. We'll see. I don't like what I see from them offensively. I will say the rookie wide receiver, Chris Olave, had a big game. And the rookie wide receivers this year are playing well. Olave, 9 catches, 147 yards on 13 targets. He was outstanding in this game. And so these young receivers, him, Drake London, Wilson, Garrett Wilson, not necessarily putting up the numbers that some of those other guys are, but from a touchdown standpoint, Jahan Dotson is ahead of these guys. So all of these young receivers, man, they're coming in the league and they're having an impact very early. Jags at Chargers. This was, I said the biggest surprise of week 3 was the Chiefs losing on the road to the Colts. The second biggest, and if you want to go favorites, 1A, 1B, Jags going to Chargers. And them winning wasn't the surprise here. It's the way that they won in the dominant manner that they won that I think surprised so many people, including myself. 38-10. And again, this is with Trevor or Justin Herbert playing. So the number 1 and 2 over, not number 1 and number 2 overall picks. So Trevor Lawrence is number 1 and Herbert was number 7. So never mind what I was about to say. But Herbert played in this game. He wasn't terrible, but you could tell he's not himself. But there's a lot fundamentally wrong with the Chargers. First of all, they got a ton of injuries. They lose their left tackle for the season to a torn bicep. I think it's a torn bicep or a torn pec, one of the two, which is unfortunate. Slater has been playing exceptional football in his young NFL career. Looks like Joey Bosa, he's always hurt. He's hurt again. Don't think he's going to be out for the entire season. If they're any good, he'll be back. If they're not, he may be done for the year. But they just seem to always have injuries. They're like the AFC version of Washington in terms of injuries. They always are hurt. But they can't run the football either. Like, if Austin Eckler doesn't have a strong game running, they just don't. And they've drafted guys. It's not for a lack of trying. Now, they haven't spent high draft capital. They've spent 7th round picks and 4th and 5th round picks on guys. But you're supposed to be able to do that at running back and get away with it. They just haven't had any success. Now Sony Michel is there, and he had a bad drop that turned into an interception in this game. It's for whatever reason. And then obviously when Keenan Allen doesn't play, it seems like their offense goes to shit. And I love their second receiver just like everybody else does, because you throw a 50-50 ball up to him and it's like a 70-30 ball. But he doesn't separate. He's a big dude is Williams, but he doesn't separate, right? So it's when they don't have Keenan Allen, who is their chain mover, right? They struggle, man, offensively. And this was hard to watch. It really was. But let's talk about Jacksonville, man. Forget about the Chargers. They're 1-2. They're struggling. They're trying to figure shit out. Their quarterback has broken ribs. Their best pass rusher is out for the foreseeable future. Their left tackle is injured for the entire season. The corner that they spent money on in the offseason had ankle surgery right before the season start, and he's not, he didn't play in this game, and he's been in and out of the lineup, and who knows what his situation will be the remainder of the season. They got problems in LA is essentially what I'm telling you. Let's talk about a team that doesn't have any problems right now, and that's the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're 2-1, 2 straight victories, 2 impressive straight victories. They go on the road they go on the road this week, win by 28. Okay, 4 touchdowns. Last week, they win a shutout 24-0, dominate the Indianapolis Colts. And so 2 straight weeks, dominant performances. They were underdogs in both of those games, and they win both of them in convincing fashion. This team offensively in this game, they played as clean a game as you will see. Trevor Lawrence was spectacular in managing the game, made a couple of throws when he needed to. 28 of 39 for 262, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's the key number with him because he's a turnover machine. James Robinson, 100 yards on just 17 carries, okay? 6 a pop. Travis Etienne, 13 carries, 45 yards. So between those two guys, 30 carries, 145 yards. I'm telling you right now, they got a nice little thunder and lightning combination going on there. James Robinson is their best running back. It's funny because we just assumed Travis Etienne was going to come in and tear shit up. It's been James Robinson this season being the more dynamic back. He fits perfectly in this Doug Peterson offensive scheme. He's been outstanding. And I want to give a shout out to Zay Jones. A lot of people just dismissed him, and they signed him for good money. I was like, Zay Jones? That kind of money? And Zay Jones has been one of their most consistent receivers this season. When they need to move the sticks, they're going to Zay Jones, and he's been outstanding. That defense has been lights out. They're forcing turnovers. 2 more turnovers forced in this game. Picked off Herbert. Talked about the Sony Michel thing. They also scooped up a fumble. I think last week they had like 4 turnovers they forced against Matt Ryan. Picked them off 3 times or whatever. They picked Carson Wentz off twice in week 1. This defense is forcing turnovers. They're flying around. I just like what the Jaguars are doing as a complete team right now. They're fun to watch, man. They're on the come up. And I told you the best thing that happened to them was them getting Peterson as their head coach, because he was going to take Trevor Lawrence and even him out. Get him to play the kind of football that he's capable of playing. That offensive scheme was going to fit him, and he's going to play well, and he's doing that right now as we speak. Rams at Cardinals, NFC West family business. If these 2 teams said they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, you know what it is, NFC West family business. And again, 20-12, Rams get the victory. They continue to exert dominance over that entire division, specifically the Cardinals and the Seahawks. the 49ers were the team that owned the Rams in that division, but this shouldn't have been as close as it was. The score doesn't do it any justice. They have, at some point, when a guy is telling you, hey, I'm a fumbler, you got to start listening to him, okay? Melvin Gordon has been screaming throughout his career, hey, I'm a fumbler. Don't give it to me inside the 5. And teams keep giving Melvin Gordon the football inside the 2 and the 1 yard line, and he keeps fumbling. When a guy tells you he's a fumbler, you got to listen, all right? Cam Akers is screaming at the Rams, I'm a fumbler. Hey, stop giving it to me inside the 5. They were going to put this game away. They were on the verge of putting this thing away. It's 20-9. They've dominated this game 6 ways to Sunday. They're in the driver's seat. They're at the 1 yard line. Cam Akers gets hit. Ball comes free. Cardinals recover. They ultimately get a field goal, turn it into a 1-score game. This thing was on the verge of being 27-9. Nothing to worry about. No sweat. Now you're sweating bullets late in the game because Cam Akers fumbles and the Cardinals recover. They got to stop giving him the football. They got another back that's big and physical that can run in between the tackles. When you get down there, stop giving Cam Akers the damn football, okay? He's done this too many times. Stop giving him the football in those situations. I'm not saying don't give him the rock. I'm just telling you, when you get down there, when it matters, give that shit to Henderson. But the defense, they stood tall, did what they had to do in this game. If you're a Cardinals fan, the biggest takeaway for you is that Marquise Brown showed up in this game. All right. You traded for him in the first round of this draft. You reunited him with Kyler Murray. Reunited, and it feels so good. And you were expecting them to go back to Oklahoma days and just start tearing shit up. Hasn't happened, until Sunday. 14 catches, 140 yards for Hollywood Brown. Hollywood was outstanding in this game. And so that's something to build on, because you still got to find a way to tread water until you get DeAndre Hopkins back in week 7. So you got to find a way. He's going to be the guy that's going to have to carry the load. AJ Green, it's AJ Green, got banged up in this game. Didn't look like he was going to be productive after he hurt himself. He tried to come back in, didn't look right. It's going to have to be the Marquise Brown show. I mean, this guy Dortch is cool, but you got to find somebody else, man. So Rams get it done. The defense carried the load here. The offense feels like they're a little off. They still there's still not a connection between Matthew Stafford and Allen Robinson. Robinson is struggling. They threw him a slant for a touchdown and went right through his damn hands. He's got to tighten up. Like, I know they're not getting you as involved as they should, but when they finally go to you, you got to make a play, bro. So he's struggling right now as a member of the Rams, but they get it done. They're 2-1, and they bounce back with 2 victories after the week 1 ass thrashing at the hands of the Bills at the crib. Falcons at Seahawks. This game went exactly the way I thought it was, with one exception. I did not expect both of these quarterbacks to be throwing the football as well as they did in this game. Geno Smith, man. Geno. Oh, Geno. Man, he looked good. It's not, oh no, it's Geno. Man, Geno was throwing that thing, man. He was throwing that peel around in this game, man. Geno Smith, 32 of 44, 325, 2 touchdowns and an interception. And the interception came at the very end of the game on the last possession, where he just threw it up on like 4th and forever, and it got picked off. Don't mind that pick. Geno was outstanding. I mean, he was in his bag. All right. Geno was like, yo, they wrote me off, but I ain't right back though in this game. Okay. Not the guy we saw last week that couldn't bust a grape and got shut out by the 49ers defense. This was the Geno Smith from Monday night against the Broncos a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately for him, his defense was awful in this game. Why was he awful? Because Marcus Mariota was out here throwing some dimes, okay? 13 of 20 for 229. He did throw a pick in this game, did Mariota, and it was a big one. But he also threw a touchdown pass in this game. I think that, if I'm not mistaken, did the pick come right before halftime? Let me check and see. Yes, it did. It came right before the half. It was like on a Hail Mary type thing. So not a big, no, it wasn't a Hail Mary, but it was dangerous, because had that Clock had 1 second, they would have gotten a field goal off of that. It was a dumb play. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you throwing a football right here? Just take a knee, go to half. But anyway, I digress. The real story of this game was Cordero Patterson on the ground. 17 carries, 141 yards, and a touchdown. He had a 40-yard touchdown run in this game. He was spectacular. So was Kyle Pitts, 5 catches, 87 yards. And Drake London, 3 catches, 54 yards, and a touchdown, man. They're starting to come along offensively. Mariota's finding these dudes. They got some big guys. Kyle Pitts is a big guy, big target. So is Drake London. And he's throwing it up, and these boys are going and getting it. They're not terrible, man. This Falcons team easily could be 2-1. They could have been 3-0. I mean, they shouldn't have beat the Rams last week. They were down in that game 31-10. But they rallied back and cut that thing to 31-27. Or 20, I think it was 27. But they should have beat the Saints in week 1. Like, this Falcons team, they're not trash. Just so you know. The Seahawks, on the other hand, I'm not really that sure about them. But the Falcons are not trash. I'm just saying. I'm not saying they're going to sneak up and beat some teams this season. And I wouldn't be shocked. I said the same thing about Chicago. I wouldn't be shocked if we look up at the end of the season, you get to division leaders, wild cards, and in the hunt, and down at the bottom, Atlanta's hanging around at 6-8. Okay, I'm not saying. I'm just saying this team right here. And again, this hinges upon the health of Marcus Mariota, and at some point he's going to get hurt. If he stays healthy, they got a shot. That's all I'm going to say. It may be the Falcons, not the Saints, in that division that competes with Tampa Bay. Speaking of the Buccaneers, this was the game of the week. Packers at Bucks. 14-12 was the final. But that doesn't do this game any justice. This was fun. This was a fun watch. Okay, I enjoyed this thing start to finish. Packers started off with a bang. 2 possessions, boom, bang, 14-3. Brady gets it, opening up the game. They go down, they get a field goal. Rodgers responds with a touchdown. They get a stop. Rodgers responds with another touchdown. Rodgers started this game sweltering, just like the heat on the field. Again, in Florida, just like in Miami, here in Tampa, it was 115 on the field. It was blazing, right? But then all of a sudden, the defenses woke up in this game. Tampa started doing that thing that they do where they fly around and hit anything that's moving. All right, they start forcing fumbles. They start getting, and Rodgers doesn't like playing this defense because they always hit his ass. Well, Rodgers was getting rid of that shit in this game, and they were running it. But the Buccaneers forced turnovers. That's what saved them. There was a fumble down around the goal line. There was another fumble that stopped the drive. The Bucs had turnovers and fumbles that hurt their drives too. Both of these teams had 2 fumbles that were back-breaking fumbles. I think the fumbles hurt Green Bay more so than Tampa because Green Bay was looking to score points when they fumbled the ball. But nonetheless, Romeo Doubs came up big in this game. If you're a Packers fan, that should be a sight for sore eyes. 8 catches, 73 yards, and a touchdown for him. And look, you knew what this was with the Buccaneers. You did it last week against the Saints. The likelihood that you're going to be able to do it 2 weeks in a row with nobody on the field at receiver, slim and none. You got Cole Beasley out there is probably your best receiver. Gage was out there. He was banged up, and he gave it a go. He had a fumble. Last week's hero was Bashad Perryman. Well, he had a fumble in this game as well. Scotty Miller was reduced to a non-factor in this game. And so really it was Cameron Brate, the tight ends, and a guy that just essentially got there maybe 5 days ago, and Cole Beasley. And so that's rough, man. That's rough, even for the GOAT. That said, he took him down the field at the end of the game. It's 14-6. He drives him the length of the field, gets him in the end zone, and then has a delay of game penalty. Look, they almost had a delay of game on the touchdown pass. That's a hell of a catch by Gage on that throw because Brady puts it behind him so that he doesn't get hit, but he still takes a shot. He makes a hell of a catch and atones for a fumble earlier in the game and gives him a chance. And then Brady has a brain fart, just takes too long to get everything set up, tries to audible at the end, snaps the ball, but it's too late, delay a game. And the Packers weren't having that from the 7-yard line, maybe the 2, and they were going to run it. Brady was checking into a run. He was going to give it to Fournette and try to bully their way in. And if that game goes to overtime, the Bucs are going to win. But it was for not. The Packers hold on. That Packers defense, man. I don't know about this Packers offense, but this Packers defense, man, I'm telling you right now, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, and Dallas defensively in the NFC, look out. If they get any semblance of offense, those three teams, they're the class of the NFC. Those three teams defensively. Now, again, offensively, I can't vouch for any of those teams right now. Any of them. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Green Bay Packers have first ballot Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and that gives them the edge. Dallas cannot say the same. But Dallas's defense is right there with these other two. And I'm just telling you, man, look out. Anyway, I digress. Packers get the win. They're 2-1 on the season after an opening week debacle versus the Vikings on the road. They've bounced back with 2 straight wins. Meanwhile, the Buccaneers are now 1-2, on the season. Or they're 2-1. They were undefeated going into this game. They're now 2-1 as well. They're the class of the NFC South. No one's going to challenge them for that division. I think the Falcons can make it interesting for the first half of the season, but they'll run away and hide with this thing. Just off the strength of their defense. So that's Slate Skatin, week number 3 in the National Football League. Let's get to our final segment of the show and garbage time. Got a couple of super chats. I'll knock those out real quick, or maybe just one. Let's see. Got 2 super chats. Captain Spartan 04, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Captain Spartan writes, Mets this weekend for the division, but overall, how do you feel about our Braves this year? Who you starting at left field? First of all, complete the sweep tonight of the Nats. And the Marlins may play spoiler, and we may go into the 3-game set with a 1-game lead. So complete the sweep tonight first. I hate the fact that Jake Odorizzi is pitching tonight. I don't have any confidence in him at all whatsoever. That said, I feel like we can win the whole thing. To me, it all hinges upon the health of Spencer Strider, who should be the rookie of the year in the NL. If he comes back healthy, he's on the IL right now. I think it's minor, but you can never tell with these pitchers and baseball players. If he's right, if he's the Spencer Strider that we've got for the bulk of this season, we have a chance with him being on. I would in the postseason, I would go obviously. I would go with Max, and then I go Spence, and then go Charlie. I wouldn't go Charlie second and Spencer third. But I don't know what why am I blanking on our manager's name? I don't know what he's gonna do, but that's how I would do it. I'm even looking at Kyle and Kyle Wright and saying, hey, he might, but we know Charlie is a much better postseason pitcher, and he's done it. I just think the level of confidence that they have in Charlie to go out there and battle in the postseason, I think they'll end up going with him. But left field, I mean, it's interesting because there's so many options. I think honestly, you have to go with the matchups. The pitcher that's on the bump, who does he struggle with? Because you could go with different, lineups. We got left hand bat. You could put a Rosario in the lineup if you need a left-handed bat. I like the young kids, man. I like the young kids, and that kid, he might be one of the best hitters on the team. So I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. We got options. Ozuna, I'd rather just DH him, but then you get to the playoffs and like William Contreras, if he's not in the lineup, I'd love to just have his bat in the lineup. Like, there's so many options. We're a dangerous team. And we got so much youth. We're going to be around for a while. It's going to be fun. I want the division, though. So this weekend is going to be big. It's going to be big. But I got nothing but confidence that we'll take care of the Mets. I would love to go into the series with a 1-game lead. I really, truly would. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, I digress. Captain Spartan, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Second base, too. Grissom or Arcia? Oh, man, that's a toughie. I think the experience of Orlando Arcia, I'd probably go with him. And, he swings a hot stick. When he gets it going, he can swing the stick. He hit a home run last night. Good to have him back, too, man, because he had gotten injured, a while back. And it's good to have him back and gives us another option. Hopefully we'll get Ozzie back. You know what I mean? And, Arcia, the beauty of him is he's a utility guy. So you can put him anywhere, right? Even if you needed to in a pinch, you could put him in the outfield, but I wouldn't suggest that we do that. But, man, Von Grissom, boy, I tell you, these young fellas, man, these young boys, I probably would go with Orlando Arcia, though. I would go with Arcia over Grissom, just with the experience. But it's good to know that you got him there. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, Anthony P., stand up. You're officially the newest member of the MOBB. So glad to have you on board, Anthony P. Mob, you know what to do. Show Anthony some love. Show him what it's like to be a member of the MOBB. So glad to have you, Anthony. Looking forward to chopping it up with you in the future. Welcome to the squad, Anthony P. All right. So that was the last super chat. Now, let's get to Thursday Night Football. This is a big one. All right. Dolphins at Bengals, 3-0 Dolphins, one of the two remaining undefeated teams along with the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFL, taking on a 1-2 Bengals team that got their first win of the season versus the Jets last week. I don't think the Bengals are right yet. Defensively or offensively, I think you can move the football on them if you can protect. Now, they can get after the quarterback, but if you can protect, I think you can move the football against their defense. And I don't think the offense is quite where it needs to be. They still have problems protecting Joe Burrow. That said, I think the Dolphins have been, getting away the first 3 weeks. They've been just like they dominated week 1. They should have lost in week 2, and they should have lost in week 3. But they're finding ways to win, and that's the mark of a good team. Even when you don't have your fastball, you find a way to get it done. However, it's a different environment on the road, on primetime television. The Bengals crowd is going to be juiced up. They're going to be charged for this one. They see food in the Dolphins. They see a team that's wounded. Tua took a shot and left that game. Probably should not have come back in that game. It's a short week. He could have used the full 6 days between games. He's not getting that this week. I don't know if he'll be 100% or whatever the case. I don't even know if he'll play. I assume he's going to play. But if it's Teddy Bridgewater, they're going to win. They being the Bengals are going to win this game hands down. But if it's Tua, it gives them a fighting chance if he's healthy because they've got weapons. They've got weapons, and that scares me because at a moment's notice, Jalen Waddle, gone, touchdown. All right, Tyreek Hill, gone, touchdown. Mike Gesicki, boom, over the top, big play. And so they've got weapons through the Dolphins. And Tua's been distributing the football well to these weapons. And the way the Bengals have been, turning over the football, Joe Burrow fumbling, throwing interceptions the first 3 weeks of the season, didn't have any turnovers last week against the Jets. But that Jets team isn't putting pressure on you. They're not putting game pressure on you. The Cowboys put game pressure on the Bengals. They did not handle it well. The Steelers put game pressure on the Bengals. They did not handle it well. The Bengals are going to, or the Dolphins are going to put game pressure on the Bengals, and I want to see how they handle it. I said all of that to say this. I like what the Dolphins have done to start this season, and they've earned 3-0. They've earned it. They had to come from behind against Baltimore, and they had to weather the storm against a barrage from the Bills last week and find a way to overcome all of the things that I told you about in that game. But that said, I think their luck runs out. I think the magic is gone in this game. I think the Bengals wake the hell up and beat a good Dolphins football team. It's not going to be easy. I think this is going to come down to a final drive. I think the score late in this game is 20-16. Dolphins are ahead. Burrow's going to get the football late. No, you can say what you want about Joe Burrow, but when the game is on the line and he has the football, Joe is unflappable. And they're going to be down 20-16 with 1 minute and 47 seconds left. Joe's going to get the football, and he's going to take their ass right down the field, and he's going to throw a touchdown pass, and they're going to win that game 23-20 over the Miami Dolphins on Thursday Night Football. It's going to be a fun one. And Thursday hasn't really disappointed us yet. The best games have been on Thursday night. Even the game last week, the Steelers and Browns was a really, really quality football game. The week before was Chiefs and Chargers. That was a hell of a football game, and I think this is going to follow suit. So looks like we're going to get the week off to a great start with a great game. Let's see if the rest of the week follows suit. But give me the Bengals at home to even their record at 2-2 and give the Dolphins their first loss, 23-20. And so That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T, here on the 292nd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Thank you guys for joining me. I look forward to chopping it up with you. If you're a member of the MOBB, if you're a Washington Commanders fan, I will be live tonight, 9:30 for CNN Live. If you're not a fan of the team or you're not going to be joining me later on tonight, I will see you tomorrow for Thursday Night Football overtime at the end of Bengals and Dolphins. Until then, you guys take care. Get off the bench, get in the game, and kick it with me, your man, Louie T. Until next time, God bless and good night.
Louie T Network.